Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is day 15 and in this session we will cover remaining part of day 14 that we got to know about the stage file in OIC, and even we done one first operation of a stage file which is write file operations. So now in this session we will cover remaining operations which includes read entire file. We'll see that how we can read a file in segment and why we are using that segment part, unzip, zip, all these things we are going to cover in this session. So now let's start with read entire file operation. So if you will see that in previous integrations, what we have done, let me open email too. So yeah, in previous session, we created one integration. That integrations, while running that integration, we are passing one payload. That's the employee information as a request payload. And based on that, in OIC, we implemented that based on this data, it will generate a file and that file will be saved over the email. So obviously in actual requirement that file you can share with file server or you can pass to any external APIs and all, so that we can do. So now we done with the write file operation, that using stage file write file operation we are successfully able to create the file. So now we have to read the file. So for example, this time instead of giving this data, the employee data as a request payload, what we will do, we will upload a file as a request payload. So by the way, we will learn that how we can create our integration. That integration will take a file in request payload instead of data. And then whatever file we will pass, we will read that file. And after reading the file, we will check how many records are there and some logic we will add. And then based on that, we will see that how we can use read file operation in YC. So let's uh, let's create one integration. So for simple purpose, I have one text file ready. So you can see this is the sample file which we used last time. So I will just take a copy of this one only and I will create a new file. And in that new file, we will not pass this creation date created by and all. So I will remove this all column. So in the file, there will be only these three columns, four columns: name, date of birth, role, and date of joining. So there are three values. Let me add one more values as date of joining as, let me pass anything like 2024 1001. So instead of one record, I will make it more records. So instead of, let me go to that Excel only, that will be easy for us to do. So we'll give S employee data file 001. We'll make it as CSV or CSV. So where is this employee data file 001? So instead of one record, let me add a few more records here. Let's example, we have 49 records, right? Let me add this one more as 50. And here, instead of name, let me give values as LX01 and let me make it. So here we have total 50 records in the file, 50 records having all 50 different names. So this value we are going to pass to that integration, and that integration will read this file, and based on that file it will what we will do, we will add a logic. So what logic we will add, so we will generate three different file based on role, right? So let me add, so this is IT role, few records have IT roles. Let me push pass few record as OIC tech role. I will give you the record. Let me pass another record as VVCS tech, and remaining record let me pick as functional consultant. So here you can see we have this data file ready, and in this data file we have total 50 records, and all the 50 records having different roles. So what we want, we are going to create one integration. That integration will take this file as a request payload, and based on this file it will generate different files. So based on that, so here we have 1 2 3 and 4. So here we have four distinct roles. So what it will do, it will create four different file, and all different file will contain only the specific employee details which is having their department. So for example, we will create one file, which file will contain only this student employee information, which having role as IT. We'll create another file which will hold only only record which is having a role as OIC tech. So that kind of things we are going to create. So first we have to create integration to take this data file as a request payload. Then we will add a logic to read this file, and then after we will add a logic to create file. So obviously we learned in previous session that how we can create file in OIC. So I have already saved this file. So let me move to the OIC. So for that, as we know that we have to create integration which will take a file as a request payload. So whenever we want to pass create any integration which can take a request payload, we have to go for app driven, and we will select as a REST endpoint or REST connection as a trigger. So I will select application type here. I selected integration type as application so that it can be created as a trigger type. I will give the name as X. So I will give them as FOAS underscore INT 002 underscore stage demo underscore 02. So now click on create. Here you can see our integration created. Here we just have to add the trigger point. So I will add connection, trigger connection, which we already created. So I given the name as FOAS underscore this one, right? REST trigger is our trigger connection. So I will use that one. Give the name as a start REST here, so that this will be considered as a trigger point of our integration. Go next, and here you can see we have to give the endpoint URL. So I will give the name as generate file. Read and generate file is our URI name, and here I will pass as a post, and here you can see we have to configure the request payload. So I will make it tick here. We have to return the response from that integration. So I will add a tick here and go next. So for adding the request payload, so what we want to pass in request payload, instead of providing the request payload in JSON, we want to upload the file, right? So for uploading the file here, we have to select request is a multi-part with payload. So this option will allow you to pass file as a request payload. So now once you will click here in the below option, that you just have to select the binary, so that the file we will pass, that file will be passed as a binary format. And here in that the media type we have to select. So as we are going to pass application text or CSV file, so here we don't have CSV mentioned, so I will select other media type, and here we just have to select application slash CSV. So as I already created earlier, that's why in the pop-up I am able to see this message. So you just have to write application slash CSV by yourself. So media type is application CSV. Just click on continue. So once you will click on continue, request configure part is done. Now it's part of response. So in the response, what you want to return from integration. So in response, let me remove this one. So in response for this integration, I want to return something like that. So a status, it will be like success. And as after a status, we want to give that total count, total records count. So whatever will be 100, 10, 50, whatever will be there, it will return that one. So these two I want to return back as a response, and message, one more column as message. So we want to send a message like email sent successfully. Right, so all this message here we created as a response payload just for dummy message. All these things we have to map in integration so that it can be passed through integration only. Response payload, simple response payload, and in the request payload we will pass as a file. Simple request payload, it will be CSV file. So now I will copy this response payload, move to the integration here, and JSON is already selected. I will click in line to provide the response payload. I will provide the response payload, click on continue. If the payload structure is fine, it will move forward. And here we just have to click on continue and finish. So our trigger endpoint is configured now. Our trigger endpoint is configured now, and here you can see this is the endpoint by which we are going to get file as a request payload, and this is the mapping by which we can give response to this response of this integration. So now here you can see in this endpoint, right, we will get the file. That file we have to read, right? For reading the file in OIC, they provide the stage file with read entire file operation. So I will direct the stage file here and will give the name. So as I am going to read the file, so I will give the name as read. And this is a stage endpoint, so I will give as a stage. Read a stage. This is name, just a name. You can give any name, but obviously whenever we are writing codes or we are creating application, we are following the naming convention so that it will be easy for other developer to debug and find that. So here you can see list of operations. We will select that read entire file, because read entire file allow us to read complete file in a single hit only, as we already discussed this in our previous session. So now here you can see when we are going to read the file, this read entire file operation is asking you to file reference, that where is your file that you want to read. So our file is coming from this endpoint. Yeah, yeah, Mani. Yeah. Hmm. 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 Okay, like I'm just trying to go by flow so that when I will get error, then I can explain you that why we are getting that error, and then if we are getting that error, then what is the solution for that. So let me explain that point you mentioned. So in a stage file, we don't have download operation, right? Here you can see. So download operation is available in FTP connection. So FTP connection is we are using FTP connection to get file from file server, correct? So when we so in a stage file, right, we have options that if our file size is less than 100 MB, we can directly use read entire file operations. If our file size is going to be more than 100 MB, and we know that what will be the size, but we make sure that our files can be more than 100 MB, right? It's completely based on the requirement, right? So in this case, instead of using read entire file operation, we have to use read file in segment operation. One more thing, like it's related to file server only. So in FTP connection, in FTP connection also we have read file operation in FTP connection. We have not covered FTP yet, but once we will cover, I will explain you that time too. But just for brief, so in FTP, they have limitation. So same limitation in FTP file server. If our file size is less than 100 MB, we can use read file operation of FTP connection directly to download the file from file server, and open the file in OIC. But if you know that, like based on requirement only, you are aware that file size can be 100 MB, more than 100 MB, which is placed over the file server. So in that case, if you will use read file operation of FTP connection, it will throw an error. So that's why when we are going to implement integration, where we are going to create integration, so all these things we have to be take care. So before going to start development, you have to ask these questions to the client, to the customer, that the file you are going to place over server, how much size of that file can be. Like, will it be that less than 100 MB or it can be more than 100 MB? This will be your questions before going to start your development. And by the way only you will get to know, okay, the file will never be more than 100 MB. So obviously directly you will go and you will use read file operation. And if you know that they confirm that file can be more than 100 MB of size, so at the time, instead of using read operation of a FTP connection, you will use download file operation. So this download file operation will just download the file from file server, and it will place the file on this OIC virtual directory here, in this place, OIC virtual directory. Now, after that, you have the file in your OIC virtual directory, and you know that after that, you have to read the file. So, for reading the file which is available in your OIC virtual directory, we have a stage file operation. At the time, you will use a stage file, read entire file operation. So, obvious here, another question is your file size is going to be more than 100 MB. That's why you use download file operation of FTP connection. So at the time, instead of using read entire file operation, you will select read file in segment. because you already know that the file size which we are going to receive from file server is going to be more than 100 MB. That's the restriction of read entire file operation. That read entire file operation cannot read the file which is more than 100 MB. I hope money you are clear now. Good. So here we will use read entire file operation. So why we are going to use read entire file operation? Because we know that our file size is very less, and in our file we have only few records. Like we have 50 records only. That record is not going to be more than like 100 MB. So that's why we are going to directly use read entire file operation. Yeah. No. 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 A stage file operation will never work with file server files. So a stage file action you will use only when your file is available in your OIC directory, OIC, this OIC application. And you will get your file in OIC directory only once you will FTP connection. So first you will use FTP connection. In your FTP connection, the operation you are going to use, if it is read file operation, you don't need to use a stage file because you will directly read file from file server only. In FTP connection, if you are using download file operation, so then download file operation will just download the file from file server and it will place file in OIC, this OIC space, right? And obviously you have file in OIC, but your file is not in open, right? You cannot read the content of the file. That's why if you want to read the content of file, you have to use a stage file, and a stage file having two different operation, that read entire file operation and read file in segment operation. If you are aware that your file size will be more less than 10 MB, less than 100 MB, you will use read entire file operation. If you know that it can be possible that your file size can be more than 100 MB, then you will use read file in segment operation. Read file in segment operation also used to read the file which is less than 100 MB. So in read file in segment doesn't have restriction that it cannot read the file which is less than 100 MB. It can read the file, but the limitation is it cannot read the file which is more than 1 GB of size. For example, in this case, this is our data file, and in this data file, we have only 50 records, right? And the read in segment operation, which if you remember, we discussed last time, it will read the file based on chunk, and each and every chunk, max it will read 2000 record, or minimum it will read 200 record. So here you can see we have only 50 records. So all these 50 record will be read in single chunk only, read in single segment only. If we will use read file in segment operation, is it okay? Okay. So now here we selected operation as read entire file. Now here you can see we have two options. The one option is configure file reference, that it is saying that the file we are going to read that doesn't have the file reference. So here you can select no. And we know that the file we are going to receive, the file user will upload while running the integration, and that file we will receive in this trigger endpoint. And this trigger endpoint will give us the file reference. File reference is something that file pointer. If you remember in last session, we used that file reference while giving the attachment. So the same file reference we will use here, because whatever file user have uploaded, we are not aware about that what file is there, what is the name of that file, and where it's downloaded, right? So that's why instead of using this file name and that file directory where this file is, we will select yes. So when you will select yes, it means that we are going to say this, we are going to tell this stage file that we have file reference. Don't worry about the file name and file location. We are providing you the file pointer. Directly hit that pointer, you will get the file that we are going to say to this stage file operation. So here once you will select this yes, you will be able to see that the second two box is removed and there is only work box name as specify the file reference. If you will click on no, it will ask you the file name and it will ask you the directory, that the OIC virtual directory where is the file. So in this case, we don't know where is the file. If we will use FTP connection for downloading the file from file server, then we know that what is the file name and where that file is downloaded in OIC. So at the time we can use yes, no, so that we can provide the file name and OIC virtual directory of the file. So here in this case, I will select yes. So when I will select yes, it will ask the file reference, that is file pointer. And we know that where is the file pointer? File pointer is available in this endpoint. So just click on this expression builder and in left hand side, you will be able to see execute, right? So this execute is our trigger point, this one. And inside the execute here, you can see we have a stream reference. This stream reference is something that the file reference. So I will drag this file reference here, and now you can see the connectivity properties. If you will expand, you will be able to see that the endpoint which we added, the method as post, we added the URL, URI, all these things you will be able to see here. You can see the method URI, relative URI, path and all. So we just need only file reference to read the file. So we given the file reference here. And here you can see we have option that remove trailer. So remove trailer will allow you to remove a specific records, that number of record from last only, that you want to remove the last record or you want to remove the last and record. For example, this is our data file. And if you want to, we want to skip this last three records. We don't want to read the last three records or last records. So in that case, this operation will help us to use. So instead of that, I don't want to do anything. I want to read all the files. So I will select as none. And here you can see decrypt content. So this we will use when we know that our file is in encrypted format. So right now our file will be simple. So I will not use anything here. Just click on next. So once you will click on continue, it will ask you the file format, that whatever file you are going to read, what is the format of that file. So we know that the file we are going to read is CSV file. So I will select this CSV here, that a simple delimited document, and you just have to click on continue so that it will ask you the file structure. What is the file structure you want to read? So we just have to provide the file structure to this endpoint so that this stage file will read the file based on the structure we will pass. So here, this is the file which we created. So I will use the same file as a structure on, or else we can create this sample file by putting one or two records only, then we can use. So I will use this file only for providing the sample. So just click here and I will select the file. So this is the file which we created. And here you can see when you will select the file, go below, you will see the sample records, it's listed here. This is not the actual record we are going to read. So this is just for the sample file we uploaded, and in the sample file this having the record, that's why we are able to see here. So this is not the one which we are going to read. We are just going to provide the structure. We uploaded a file here to provide the structure to this endpoint so that this endpoint will read the file according to this structure only. So here, once you will upload the file, it will ask you two mandatory columns, that is record name and the record set name. So this record name is something that when you will open the node of the file, when you will get the content of the file, so that file content will be in this node only. So record name, I will use R. Record set name, I will use RS. Go below, you can see automatically when we loaded file, it's selected here, comma delimited, UTF-8, optionally enclosed by double quotes. It's fine. Here you can see we have option. I already discussed this point, but again I'm discussing here. So here you can see this column header is tick. It means that the file which we loaded, the first record of the file will be considered as a header only, so that it will read accordingly. So that's why it's ticked here. You can see automatically taken the name here. For example, you are going to read the file and your read file doesn't have that header, right? And you don't know that header. So instead of that, you can just untick here. So once you will untick here, all this column will be selected as C1, C2, C3 and all. And now here you can see we have column underscore optionals. If you will tick here, all this column right now you are able to see it's looking like mandatory here, right? So once I will tick here, all this column will be optional. And what is the meaning of this mandatory and optional here? So mandatory means that for reading the file, that file should have at least one record. Because here you can see if we will go next, right, all columns are optional. If we will go next, it will generate an error and it will not allow us to go next. You can see please select one or more element as mandatory. So why this is asking to select one any of the record is mandatory, it means that it is not possible to have this file empty, right? So if this file is not empty, it means that at least one record will be there. and one record will be there. It means any of the column will have the value, right? That's why it's asking that, because empty file you cannot read, right? When you will go and read empty file, it will generate an error. So that's why it's asking that make one column at least as mandatory. You can make any of the column as mandatory, that based on your decision, that what you think that which column cannot be empty anyhow. So we know that as per here in this rule, I know that name cannot be empty, right? Name column cannot be empty. So that's why I selected name as mandatory. You can select any of the column. It's not mandatory that you have to select this first column only or second column only. It's based on your understanding that what you think that which column cannot be empty while reading the file. For example, when we are talking about empty, so this is a file. If I will go here, right, this is empty file, right? So if user will upload this file and your stage file will be going to read this file, it will generate an error due to this column, because at least one column should be there. So here, as this column name I make as mandatory, so it means that if I will provide any value here, this is only value, I don't want to provide any value here, OIC will be able to read this file, just because we added here the first column as mandatory. If I will make this second column as mandatory, so if you will not provide value here and here we will provide the value anything, so this will be OIC will be able to read this file. So that's the reason we are providing there as a mandatory column, at least one. So now we given that one, just go next, continue and finish. So this is our summary page, that's we configure that stage file endpoint, that's it. So here you can see the stage read file doesn't have the mapper. So this doesn't have mapper because it's not going to take any values as a payload here. We all, whatever file they have to read, we given in the configuration page only. So now with the help of this endpoint, we are able to read the file whatever user uploaded. Now, once this file we read, what we have to do? Our requirement is to, based on the records, we have to generate different file. So we have to generate one file for this one. We have to generate another file for this one, right? It means that we will create file. We will create separate file, right? And all this separate file, we have to merge this data, and we will merge data based on condition. So for that, we have to create a stage file, write file operation to create the file. So how many files we are going to create? We are going to create one file, two file, three file, and the four file we have to create. For that, we have to use four stage file here. So that first we are going to create a stage file structure. Then after we will read this file and we will loop the record on this file, and then we will merge each and every record one by one. So for creating the file, creating the first four file, we just have to use a stage file operation. So again, I will move here. This is a stage action. I will add a stage action here. And here I will give the name. So I will give the name as write. And this file, whatever we will create, this file will be able to get the file of IT role. So I will give that write IT stage. Go next. And here we have to write the file. I will select the write file operation. Write file operation is we are using to create the file. So now here we have to specify the file name, that what file name we want to provide. So I will provide the file name as xxemp xx underscore it underscore emp underscore 001.csv. This is the file name I want to give. So let me copy this in my notepad so that it will be easy for me to reference. And now where we want to create this file? We want to create this file in virtual directory name as /OIC. So right now there won't be any directory with this name, but when we are providing this one, so it will create OIC virtual directory with this directory name, and then it will place the file, this file in this directory. Now here you can see right now I will not use append file. I will explain you why we have to, when we have to use. So just I will click on continue. It will ask the file structure that what kind of file I want to create. So I want to create the CSV file. So here I will select CSV. Go next. It will ask the sample file that which kind of file you want to create. So here you can see I want to create file, but that file I want to add few more columns. So with this file, this four column, I want to add few extra columns. So let me add. So this is sample values. So with all these four column, I want to add few extra columns, few extra column like integration name, creation date, created by, and that That's fine. Let only for or OIC instance ID. OIC instance ID. So this four extra column I want to add in the file when the file will be created. Right. So this will be our file. So let me provide any value, random value here, so that that can be considered as a structure. So now here, let me save this file structure. So here I will select the type as CSV and I will give the name as this is the file. I will give the name as updated structure. So now our CSV file, sample CSV file is ready by which we have to create the file. So now go back to the integration and here we have to provide the file. So I will select that file which we created. So I created this name, updated structure, right? So open. And again, while writing the file, it will ask you to provide the record and record set name. These two are the node only. You can provide any name here. So I will provide RRR and I will provide RSSS just for brief purpose so that you will get to know that what is the purpose of this one. And we know that let me provide here R underscore IT. IT is role. Therefore, this file we are going to create. IS underscore IT. I will show you where these two will reflect. So now here all these are fine. So all are mandatory. Let it be mandatory only because for each and every row we are going to provide value here only. So go next and done. So here we have one file created. So right now this file is empty. We don't have any record with this file. So here you can see in this mapper, whatever value we will create, we will pass here in the mapper. You can see whatever value we will pass, that file will contain that records, that values, right? So if you remember last time when we created the file, that file doesn't have header, right? If you will see this file last time we created using OIC, right? This file doesn't have header, right? I told you that header is in OIC, in term of OIC or in term of software, header is also a content of or data of the file, right? So what I will do, so when we added this stage file, I will provide the header here. So how we will provide the header? So let's go to the mapping and whatever header you want to provide, you just have to provide the mapping here. So in the mapping, you have to provide the header name. So I will click on here. So in name, instead of mapping the data, so I will consider first row as a data as a header. So I will give the name. So here you can see this is our simple file. This simple file having name as a small, right? So instead of a small, I will use emp underscore name. So this is our first row. The same I will use for all other files. So I'm just going to make a copy here so that when I will use a state file for another file, I can use the same. Right click here. I will select DOB. So I will give the name as emp underscore DOB. This will be our header, remember. Just going to copy it here. So this is rows. Right click, create target node. Again, I will get emp underscore role. Now here it will be date of joining. So I will give emp underscore doj. Now this will be integration name. So let me put it same. So instead of typing, what I will do, I will just copy this one. Now we are not able to get copy here. So let me put here int name. This is done. This is created. CREATI creation date. And date created by here we have. And now in last we have OIC instance ID. OIC underscore instance ID. This one is missing. Let me copy this created by here. So now here you can see we provided the mapping to this stage file, just providing the hard-coded values. So let me validate here. So what it will do, it will create this file using this endpoint, and this file will have only this one record as a this hard-coded values. It means that when our file will be created, our file will have one record, that is the hard-coded, that record will have the hard-coded values. Right. So let me create another file. I'm just going to copy the directory what I passed here. So this OIC. Right. So now we created one file, that is xxit employee 00 file. Now we have to create another file. So again, I will use another stage file here. So this stage file will contain the employee information which will related to OIC tech, right? So here I will give the name as stage, right, underscore right, OIC tech underscore stage, as this is a stage file. So now go to continue. This is just the endpoint name, nothing else, right? So I will select right file operation again. And here we have to provide the file name. What file name we want to give? So let me provide the file name as, I will just, instead of IT, I will give OIC tech. This will be our file name. So I will, let me copy this file name. And here, this is the directory where we want to create the file. So I want to create file in the same OIC virtual directory where we created the first file. So let me pass this one here. So we passed here. I don't want to do append here. Just continue. It will ask the sample file. So I will just upload the sample file. This is the same step I am going to repeat again. I will give the name as our underscore OIC tech rs underscore OIC tech. Now everything is fine. I will just continue and finish. So here we added second stage file to create second file. I will give the name here. In the mapping, I will just provide the same header file, header column name. So just go here, right click here. So I already use here employee name. So just click here, click the employee name column. Second, here we have DOB. So I have already copied this one. This is the string value. So we have to use single quotes here. Role. So instead of role, I will use employee role here. This is our date of joining column name. So I will right click here. So this is integration name. I use INT name. And this will be creation date. Created by here. And last OIC instance ID. So just here we just have to click on right click create node. I already explained why we are clicking on this create target node. So now you can see using this hard-coded value, our file will be created with new name, and that file will having this value as a first row, right? That value we as a human being will consider as a header of the CSV file. Now here we have to add two more stage file. So instead of adding two more stage file, what I'm going to do, because I have to write again this two, so I will add one more file, and that file will give the name as other, so that all anything VBCS, functional constant, and any name will be there that will be merged to that stage file. So let me add another stage file here. Uh, let me check here. No, we don't have that option. That copy you will get only that way, like cut you will paste option only you will get when you will cut any of the endpoint. So here I'm going to use is right others underscore estate. So I will create third file with the name of others, so that that file will store all this other information. So what file name we are going to use? So instead of using this VBCS or anything, so here I will just give the name as XX others employee.csv. So this is the file name I want to create, and the OIC virtual directory will be same, that slash OIC, so that all file will be created on same specific place. Continue. Next, we have to provide the sample file. Why we got error? Because without providing this one, I just click on this continue. That's why we got error. So R underscore others, RS underscore others, and everything is fine. Let's continue. Finish. Now our endpoint is added. We just have to provide the header values. So I will just click on this mapping, write others mapping. And in the mapping again, we have to do the same. So this name column will store which value? So name column will store this value as a first record. And this DOB will store second column. And third column here, role. So we already have this role column here, EMP underscore role. So I will use this EMP underscore role here. And next is DOJ. For DOJ, we already have this text, so I will use. Here you can see I forgot to give this another single quotes, right? If I will try to click on save, it will get an error because this is not the correct way, right? We given the starting quotes and end quote was missing. So you just have, sometimes you will get that kind of error too. So while writing this integration, you can take care of all this point. That's fine. I just have to add three more columns. So this created by, I will use the same here. Then we have created by, and the last we have OIC instance ID. So just click here, validate, go back, and done. So here you can see what we have done. This endpoint, using this endpoint, we are able to receive the CSV file which user will pass while running this integration. Using this endpoint, we will be able to read that specific file, and using this one and this endpoint and mapping, we will be able to create one file. Using this, we will be able to create two file, and this using this, we will be able to create third file, and this mapping will provide the data to that file. So there's three file created here. So instead of continue the integration by mapping the records, I just want to show you that how that file will be created when we will pass header name as a first record. So here we just have to add the notification, what notification we want to send to that user. So I will add notification in last. Let me go here. This is the endpoint. So this is the notification. I will map this notification, drag the notification here. And here again, we have to provide the names. I will give the notification here message as mm, file email underscore notification. And here we have to provide the details. So into what name I want to give? So into I want to just send an email to pops.oracle.apps.solutions@gmail.com and CC. Let me put my email. And here we have BCC. I don't want to put anything from. So from I will pass as at no reply at oracle.com. And in the subject, so whatever we want, we can provide in the subject. So in subject, I just want to provide a message like employee files. So this is the message I want to pass here. And in body, what we want? In body, I want to make message as hi team. Please find updated file with employee details. Regards, OIC support team. This is the message. You can provide any message based on your business requirement, whatever is there. Now here you can see we want to send an attachment, and attachment can be sent in this section. So just click here, and this will ask you the attachment reference. For that, you can see these all are the endpoint which we created. So you can see right IT underscore. This is the endpoint by which we created the file. So just open here, go to the right response, and here you can see ICS file. In CS ICS, you can see we have file reference. So drag this file reference here. So this one file is attached here. We have to add another file. So again, I will just go here, and what is our another file? That is OIC tech. I will expand here. Here you can see inside the RCS, we have file reference. So I will drag this file reference here. You can see reference added here. So now we have to add another file. The third file we given the name as others, right? So here you can see this is other underscore states. So I will just expand this one. And again, inside the ICS file, you will be able to find the file reference. I will drag this file reference here. Sorry, here. So now you can see in this attachment, in this notification, we successfully able to add this three attachment. Just we have to go click outside. So once you will click outside, you can see all got configured. We just read the file, but we didn't use the record of this file. So I just want to show you that file without data, what it's looking like. Then I will add the loop on this, and then I will use this stage file to provide the record for this file. So now here we have one error. That error is related to business identifier. So I will just add business identifier. Anything you can provide. So I will just provide method as business identifier because it's required at least one values. Here I just have to save this integration. Integration status will be configured. Here we have to just go back, and I have to activate this integration. So now it will take a bit time to activate because we added lots of endpoints. So now integration got activated. We have to run this integration. Just click on run. So here you can see in body, instead of providing the JSON format here as a request payload, we have to provide the file. So I will select this file here, click on this file, and we just have to select the file. So if you remember, we created file with the name of that employee data file 001. This is the file we created today, right? So I will select this file, click on open. You can see this file is selected here. We just have to click on run. So if you remember, in this integration, we have not configured any response payload yet. So when we will run, it will not give us a response, but it will do all these activities. You just click here. It will take time to complete. So once this will be completed, we will be able to see this message. So in the logger, you can see we don't have any response because we have not mapped the response yet. And you can see our integration got completed successfully. If you will see, when our integration got completed, here in this endpoint, right, message started processing. So this, once we will click here, you will find what we passed. So this is the employee file we passed, and that file we get in OIC as a file reference. You can see the stream reference is the file reference of the file. This is the file reference. And based on the file reference, we added the stage file read endpoint to read the file. So once you will click here, you will be able to see the content of the file which we passed. You can see LX5, LX6, LX19, VBCS tech, and all these things. So we just have read the file. We didn't use this file in our integration as of now. After that, we added a stage file, that is the right stage file by which we are creating the file. So if you will open here, you will be able to see what kind of value we pass to create the file. So we pass this value only to create the file. You can see message received by this stage file. So what value we pass to this endpoint, we just provided the hard-coded values, right? So the file created with this value only. So what is the file? If you will see, when this stage file executed, it's creating the file and giving the file reference. Here you can see file reference. Inside the ICS, we are able to see the file reference. This is the file reference. What is the name of file? This is the name of the file. This is the extension of the file. This is the size of the file. And this is the same file we add in the notification. You can see here we added the notification, and in the notification we added all these things. You can see, sorry, not this one, the notification. In this notification we added the things here. So now if you will go to the email, go back, here you can see we received this email, right? Subject as employee file, This is the message, and here in this email we receive three file, and all these three file having only header. You can see as a record, employee name, emp, dave, and all. This is only one column, one record in each, and in each and every file, right? Here you can see we have only one record. So now our file is created with this name, and this file is containing only one record. That record is considered as a header in our in human readable format. So now we have to just add the different records in the file. So now we have to just edit this integration. So just going to duplicate, select activity, let me open this file. Integrations got opened. Now here our integration is open. Now here you can see we read the file. This is in the response of this endpoint, we will get the content of the file. That content of the file we have to map here, right? We have to provide in the mapping of this stage file. So what I will do, so I will just move this endpoint from a starting to last. I will move this file to endpoint to here before email notification here. So before this stage file reading, we created this three file, one file, two file, and this three file. Now we added a stage endpoint to read the file, and now we have to add a loop over this read. So I will just go for that. We have for each loop, which we already discussed. So I will direct this for each loop here. This for each loop will ask the repeated element, and we know that repeated element is coming from read stage file. And what is the name of this endpoint? Read stage. And here you can see read stage. Once you will expand rs, and inside that rs we have rs record set. This is the record. So this is the repeating element. You can see multiple box icon is repeated element. So I will drag this repeated element here, and now this is the loop variable name. So what name I want to give to this for each loop? So I want to give for each loop as employee loop, employee for each. So this is the endpoint name I given to this for each loop, and for this variable I will just use the same underscore loop var. I follow this approach only. So the loop var will be named as, because like for example, if our integration having multiple for each loop, right? So that time you will get confused. What is the loop variable for which loop? That's why I given the name as the endpoint. I given the name. So just click outside. So here you can see our for each loop added. So whatever number of record is there in this stage file, this loop will iterate that number of time. And each and every time we will pick this record. Here you can see we will pick this record. This record will be stored in this loop variable, and we will check, is this loop variable record column role having IT value as IT. We will map that record in this IT file. If that if that value is OIC tag, we will map the record into this stage file. So for that, what we have to do, we have to add switch, so that this condition we will add. So I will add the switch here, and we know that we are using switch to add the condition. So I will just drag here, and here in the switch it will ask the conditions. So what condition we want? We want to add condition on for each loop column. So you can see this is for each loop variable. I will expand this for each loop variable. And which column we have to add the condition? So if we have to add the condition on role column, so I will drag this role here. And what condition we want to check? We want to check equals to value. If role equals to IT, this one, I will copy this one and will provide it here in the single quotes as a value. So you can see this condition added if role is equals to IT. Now just I have to go outside. You can see one switch condition added, as this is here we added only one statement switch, one condition. Here you can see we just added one condition, that's why it's showing only one here. So we know that for each and every switch statement we have otherwise case. The otherwise case will execute when all condition will be false. So here we want to add condition that if this role is IT, if role is OIC tag, and the VBCS tag functional or any other value will we want to comes under any other file, right? So in this case we just have to add two conditions only. We have to add two conditions only, and third will be go in the otherwise block. So I will add otherwise will okay. So just click on three dot, go to add, and here you can see we have otherwise block. So once you will click on otherwise block will be added for this switch. So once you will click expand here, Why we are not able to see? Let me save. Sometimes it's creating problem here. So now you can see root 1 is our first condition. This is the otherwise. If this condition will not true, it will go inside otherwise. But we want to add one more condition. To that, I will just click on this. I will click on this three dot and go to add. So new root will be added and we have to provide the condition for that root. So here this second root, what condition we want to add? So again, I want to add condition of loop variable, this role. And what we want to check if role is having value as OIC tech. So operation will be equals to and value will be OIC tech. So here you can see the condition added that if role is OIC tech, then it will move inside the second root. You can see the root 2. So if role will be IT, then control will move inside this one. If role will be OIC tech, control will move inside this scope. If role will be not IT or not OIC tech, then control will move inside the otherwise. So in this case, we know that for each and every condition, we have separate file. So this is the stage file. The first stage file we created, OIC tech. So we want to merge file in this record, right? In this file. So again, we have to add another stage file. So as you can see here, we already created this file, right? Here you can see we already created this file xx others underscore emp01, this one xx oic tech and emp underscore 01.csv. This file already created having one row. We don't want to create another file. We just want to add a record in this file. So that's why OIC stage file having operation as append. So here you can see as we want to write the file, we want to add the record in the file. So again, we will use a stage file. So let me use a stage file here, a stage file. And here I will select, give the name as append and IT, right? IT underscore stage. Click on continue. And here you can see we have to select write file operation, and this write file operation again it will ask the file name and the directory, that where we want to create the file and what will be the directory we write, what is the file name and the directory. So as we already created file, so this is our file name, so I will use the same file name here. So while writing the file, a stage file, if you will use same file and you will select append operation, so instead of creating file with the same name, what it will do, whatever record we will map, that record will be merged to that file. It will not create a new file with this name. So here that's why we have to use the same location too, so that in the same location it will check the file. If the file is already present in this location with this name, so whatever in the mapping, whatever record we will pass, that record will be merged to that file. That's why here we have to select append operation. So I will just select append operation, to click on continue. Again, we have to provide the same. So I will provide the structure again. So this is our structure, that updated file structure. So let me pass rs and continue, finish. Now you can see one file we added, we given the name as IT1, and when control will move inside this scope, this IT will execute, and we want to add this row, the for each loop loop variable will store this row, and we want to merge this row in the IT file. That's why we added the stage file with the same location, with the same file name. Now here click on this mapping to provide the data. So instead of providing this time hard-coded value as a column header, we will provide the value coming from loop variable so that it can merge. So where is the loop variable? You can see employee for each loop. So I will drag this name here. I will drag this DOB. I will drag this role here. One more column is there, date of joining. I will drag this DOG. So whatever data that loop will variable will store, that data will be passed to this mapping. And integration name. So we know that integration name we will get at the runtime of the integration metadata. So sorry, integration details expand here. This is the integration name and creation date. So we know that in a stage file in OIC we have predefined function which is named as current date. So you can see we search with the current date here. We are able to see this current date. So I will drag this current date here so that this column will store the current date values. Click here to hide. Now we have to provide the value for created by. So created by is that the who run the integration. So run details we will get by invoked by here. So I will drag this invoked by here. And now OIC instance ID also we will get in the runtime details. So I will drag this OIC instance here. So now our mapping is done for one file. Go back, save, and same we have to do for another condition, that is root 2. So again we have to add the stage file here. Drag the stage file here. So here I will give the name as append. So append, this is the name because we know that we are going to append the file. So append, I will give this OIC take underscore stage. Continue. Here we'll select as operation as write file. And here again we have to provide the file name for the OIC tech file. So OIC tech file having this name. So I will use this name here. And what is the directory? So this is the directory where we already created the file. So if you will provide wrong directory here, it will not append the file. So here I will select the append operations because it will not find the file that updated in the wrong directory. Go continue. CSV, yeah, fine. I will provide the structure. And here we have to provide the name RS. You can provide anything here. Continue, finish. Let me save this integration so that we don't want to lose the changes. So here in the mapping, again, we have to provide the mapping. So again, we'll provide the mapping from loop variable only because we already added the condition. You can see this is RS, which we given as while configuring the stage file, RS, R, and this all of the column. So instance ID will come from metadata, runtime, the instance ID. Created by will come from invoked by. Creation date will come from function. That function we will get from by clicking here, and you just have to search here or just explain this date file, and here you will be able to see current date. So I will drag this current date here. Now here we have to provide the integration name. So from where we will get the integration name? We will get integration name from integration metadata inside the integration details. Expand here. Integration name is there, right? So now these four columns we will map from loop variable. So this is our loop variable, loop var. Expand this one. Name will be mapped to name. DOB will be mapped to DOB. Role will be mapped to role, and date of joining DOJ will be mapped with DOJ. So now we are done with all the mapping for this endpoint. Go back. Now you can see we added two stage file with two different conditions, and now this is otherwise. So we want that whatever others operation others role will be there for employee, that all role will be merged to other employee other stage file which we created. So again I will select the stage file here, and here we have to give the name to the endpoint. I will give the name as append others underscore stage. Oh, sorry, I selected as rest endpoint. That is incorrect. Discard. I will delete this one. Here we have to select the stage file only, right? So STH. This is the stage, right? So I will click here. Name will be append the stage. Continue. Here again we have to select the operation as write, and I will select the file name. If you will select incorrect file name, it will not append the file because it will append the records only when the file name and the directory will be same, and you will use the append option here. While testing or while practice, you can try by removing the append file. You can see what result you are getting. That will be learning for you too. So I will select the sample file. This is the same sample file I'm using for all these three files. R, RS, and that's done. Continue, finish. Now here we have to provide the mapping. So in the mapping again, I will provide the mapping values from the loop variable only. So this is the loop variable expand. So expand this column here. So the name, So here we are not mapping this array element because we know that we already added the loop on the repeated element and that loop variable will store only one record. That's why we have not mapped this array element. Even you will not be able to map because this R is not array. This R1 is arrays, right? So that's why DOG. And you can see, don't be confused that R and RS we given, right? And while reading the file, also we given the name as R or RS. That's why both are same. If sometimes you will not get the same, it means that while reading the file or while writing the file, you need to use the same R and record set name. So here we have to provide the integration name from metadata. Integration details will be integration name here. Creation date, again, I will use the function which is current date function. This current date, you can see when I drag the function, that function automatically mapped here. You can see this is the name f and colon, this is the node and the current date. So let me take now created by will be coming from runtime details, that is invoked by, and the instance id. That's done. So click on validate, go back. You can see now using this one, we all configure all these three state file. Loop will iterate whatever record it will be there. It will check the condition, and whatever condition will justify, it will append the record in that stage file only. So now here you can see this. Till now here we are done, right? And we already added the notifications to send this file over email. And after that here, this is the response of integration. So in this response, I want to send the message. So I will just provide the response here. So in the response wrapper, in the status, I will just add the value as hard-coded values as success in the capital S, S. Success. And now I have message we have to provide. So I will provide the message as all file has been generated and sent over the email. This is the message I want to pass. And this is the total record count. And from where we will get the total record count? So we already used the read stage file. So if you will expand, you will be able to see the array element here. So we just have to provide the count here. So right click here. There is one function name as count. That count function is taking array element node, and it will return back the count of that array element. So here I will drag this R here. So R is our repeating element. So this count function will count the number of record in this repeating element, and it will be mapped to a total record count. So that's done, right? Click on validate, go back and save. And now here you can see our integration is ready. You can see, let me change the vertical to horizontal here. You can see first, we added the state endpoint, trigger endpoint, rest trigger endpoint by which we will be able to pass the data to integration. Integration will take the data file. First, it will add a state file to create all these three separate files. By using this mapping, we are going to provide the hard-coded value as a header. And after that, we added read a stage file to read the content of the file which passed by user in this endpoint. And after reading the file, we added the for each loop. That for each loop will iterate all the record one by one, and based on that we added the switch statement here. This switch statement having the condition 1 2 3. So condition 1 will check that role as IT, condition 2 will check role as OIC tech, and this is otherwise. So if suppose the first condition is not going to be true, second condition it will check. If it is also not going to be true, then it will automatically jump to this third block, that is otherwise, and whatever file name we given, it will map the loop record into this. So by this way, if we have 50 records, that file will iterate, this loop will iterate 50 times. It will check all the condition, and then it will merge the file in the record using append operation we selected, append take here. After that, we will send that email. So while sending the email, we selected the file reference. And you know that the file we created, this file we created on the same place where we created this file. So that the file reference will be same for both endpoint. This endpoint will having the same file reference as the endpoint created outside. So that's why we don't need to update the attachment here. So now our integration is ready. Just save and we will activate this integration. Go back and just here we have to activate this integration. So by this way also, this is also one of the way to split the data file into different file based on condition. So now here our integration is activated. Just go to run and we have to run this integration. So go to body, we have to upload the file, and this is our file, right? File 01, open, and just click on run. So as we added the loop to iterate and we added conditions, it will take time. Obviously, the integration is working too much fast that it will not feel that you is taken time, but obviously it's taken time a bit. So you can see once integration got executed. So here you can see we have the iteration. Iteration executed 50 times because our file having 50 records. If you will open each and every iteration, you are able to see. If you will open any of the iteration 1, you can see in the iteration 1 what we have done, the loop variable is going to store the iteration 1 record. So if you will click here, you will be able to see the value. Based on this value, it will check this column, roll column here. So you can see when it's checked, this got satisfied as roll is equals to IT. So the roll is equals to IT condition got follow, and after that it will move inside that one, and you can see it's play the file as append IT state, right? And here you can see this provided data. And what is the file data they provided? You can see all this hardcode data we provided, and based on that, it will generate the file. And you can see this is the file reference. So this file reference, if I will copy to show you in the notepad, you can see here, this is the file reference we use for append the file. You can see, and the same file reference, if I will show you here, while writing this IT stage response, you can see this is the file reference for IT endpoint. You will be able to see the same, both are same. You can see, you can see here, both are same. So why both are same? Because they didn't generate another pointer. So that's why the concept of file reference. If you will create the same file with the same name on the same directory, it will not create a new file. It will just append or replace the previous file. As we use append operation here, so instead of replacing previous file, it's just going to append the record in the file which already created. So that's the here. So now here you can see in response we already configured. So in response we are getting this message as there were total 50 record. That's why we are getting count as 50. And if you will go to email, here you can see we see that email, right? This email having the same message body, and this are the three files. So here you can see if you will open this, let me show you first that OIC file. If you will click here, you can see how many records are there, 3 and 3 6. You can see this is the header and this is the record for this file, and this record is added by the append operation of the stage file. Now you can see how many records are there, 6 records are there. If you will go to the data file, in this data file 6 record having that role as IT. And OIC tech, how many records are there? You can see total 9 records are there which having the OIC tech role. So now go back and check the OIC tech file. You can see this is OIC tech file, open, and you can see how many file records are there. Total 9 records are there in this file. And all this record, remaining record, VBCS tech plus functional consultant, all will be merged to that other file. If you will open here, you can see other file, that other will be having the records that not the bulk record, right? The record having operation as VBCS tech and the functional consultant, because we added this in otherwise case. And you can see this is the value we provided hard coded, the INT name, creation date, created by, and all. So this is the way we created integration, where we learn about write file operation, read a file operation, and we learn that how we can use append option of the write file operation. In next session, we will see that how we can use read file in segment operation. So thank you so much everyone for joining. If anyone having any queries and want to ask, feel free to unmute yourself and yeah, ask your questions. Thank you so much again for joining.